We made it. We made it. Finally. Okay. Guys, we apologize. We are 10 minutes.
What's up?
We are 10 minutes late. We are 10 minutes late. But welcome to episode 2 of Love and Entrepreneurship. You have your girl Ty Woods.
And this is Chris Woods representing.
And we are your coaches, and we are here to answer your questions and to talk about love and entrepreneurship and how we mix the two and how we don't mix the two, and just get all of your feedback. We had a wonderful time last week, and just to recap, last week's episode, we had the opportunity to share with you all one of the things that God has put on our hearts to do, which is to mentor 10 aspiring entrepreneurs and give you the tools that you need to become successful in business and entrepreneurship. And so we are going to talk to you today about how we're going to make that happen and some other things that we're going to share with you for the new year. First of all, Happy New Year!
Can y'all believe it's 20?
Oh my gosh, it is 2020.
I want to know, where is my flying car? Where is my
Right, remember we used to watch the Jetsons, and we used to think that 2020 was going to be about, no, we do have video. We do have video messaging. We do have a lot of things that they had in the Jetsons, but we don't have flying cars yet. So, in the meantime, while we're waiting on our flying cars, we're going to talk to you guys.
Some of y'all can't drive on land, but that's a whole other story.
Well, I have some really, really good news to share with you guys before we get started. Yes.
This might be my first time hearing it too.
No, it's not your first time.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
So, yesterday I went to weigh in at the doctor. And
personally.
Yes. I lost 30 pounds.
Woo!
Woo!
Good job.
So I'm on this journey, and I haven't been very vocal about my journey. I'm not going to get too much into it because this is not the show for that. But I just wanted you guys to know that I have been doing a lot of sacrificing. And I have been just focusing on becoming a healthier version of Ty. In order for me to be the best entrepreneur I can be, first I have to be the best person I can be. And that started with taking control of my health, taking control of my weight. And so I am down 30 pounds. I don't know if you can tell, but...
Oh, no, I mean...
You can't tell because I'm not standing up. You may be in my face, but... I have not hit my goal weight just yet. I still have about 55 pounds to go, but I am well on my way. So that's the good news that I wanted to share with you. Now, let's get into the meat because we're not going to keep you guys long. We always promise that we're going to keep this thing under 20 minutes as much as we can because we want to make sure that you get the meat of what we're trying to do here, okay? So, what we're going to talk about today?
So, many people always come to us and they say, wait, you guys work together and you're married. How do you do that?
It's hard.
You laughing too hard.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard. So, what's hard about it?
It does have its challenges.
For starters, we have to identify roles in our business, and sometimes that may end up being me being the boss of him.
I knew you were going to say that. Go ahead.
The boss.
You're not the boss of me.
You're not. That's what my 5-year-old always say. You're not the boss of me. But we had the opportunity to work together. We have had the opportunity to work together for over 8 years now. And we have actually figured out what works for us so that we can continue working together. So the first thing that we do is we identify our strengths.
Mm-hmm.
We identified our strengths, and we said, okay, Ty, you're good at this, this, and this. So let's put you in this role because this is where you will flourish. And Chris, you're good at this, this, and this. So we're going to put you in this role because this is where you will flourish. So when we're in our roles, we seem to be working pretty good. But what happens when we cross into each other's roles?
Total chaos. Then egos get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody think they can do it better. I got a better method for that. And it's okay to add your input. The problem becomes when you begin to take over what that person's initial role is, right, without allowing them to actually fulfill that assignment, whatever that may be.
Right.
And it definitely takes learning each other, and that's the biggest thing. Even with any type of role, any type of employer, we always have, even in our own business, that people take a personality profile, because that's going to help you identify who you are in the workplace, as well as how you operate socially, because the way you interact with people will also determine the outcome of that productivity. And so it's so important that we know who we are first before we can begin to operate and have a successful business working together, because the challenge sometimes happens is that work is always on.
Right.
Meaning that if we're in the office or we're at a meeting, that particular assignment, that particular task comes home with us.
Right.
And that's something that we, even today, still have to continuously work to draw the line and say, oh, I'm not talking about that right now.
Right.
This is Chris and Ty, husband and wife, not Chris and Ty, business partners.
Right. And I think the best advice that we can give anyone who's working side by side with their partner is you have to set a boundary of when you're going to talk about the business. Set a date, schedule it, and then also set a date for when you're going to have your actual date night. And agree that during date night, you are not to talk about business. And that's going to be very hard because you're so intertwined. No, you talk about business too. You talk about business too.
I correct myself recently.
But it's the business and you are so intertwined that it's really hard to not talk about. So he was like, so how was your day? Then you start talking about what happened at the business, because that's where my day was. And I may say, well, how was your day? Well, let me tell you about this client. Let me tell you about this situation, this employee, this, and then we end up talking about work again. So what we had to do was say, okay, let's cut it off. Let's talk about growth, personal things that we want to grow in, and what are your goals, what are your aspirations. So we focus on some things that are in the future so that we don't focus on the present when we're together.
Yeah, no, that's good. It is so important that we set those boundaries and those guidelines, because the lines does get blurred sometimes. And I think the biggest hurdle that we've learned how to overcome is the respect, and understanding that if the roles change, then the roles change in that environment, in that setting. But in other settings, for example, at home, then the roles may be different, and then both of us have to learn how to. The word that a lot of people hate is called submission. So, but it's not a bad word, because we have to submit one to another, and whatever that is, in order to accomplish the bigger task, the bigger goal. Even though our ego hurts a lot of times. Oh, I gotta do what?
Yes, he hit the nail right on the head. It is very hard to turn off boss Ty. That's what in my head.
In her head, like boss baby.
Like boss baby.
Boss Ty.
Yeah. So it's really hard to turn off boss Ty when I'm at home, because I'm in charge everywhere else I go. So when I get home, it's like, okay, I'm still in charge. They're like, wait a minute. You can't boss me around like this now. And it becomes a fine line where my duties as a mother and a wife takes precedent over my duties as an entrepreneur. And I don't like using the word boss because it just makes it seem like I'm like this.
Yeah, generally. When
I say leader. I should say leader.
Yeah, when you use the word boss, a lot of times people take the relationship out of it.
Right.
And so more people will follow a leader than a boss because
Right.
a boss just gives assignments and say, "Hey, get this done."
Right.
Not regarding that personal's, whatever else personally they got going on.
Right. So as I lead at work, sometimes it does trickle over into my home, and I end up finding myself bossing at home. So what I have done is I've established what my strengths are at home too. So just as well as we found out how my strengths flow in the workplace, in our business, I had to then find out where my strengths were at home and then say, okay, let me operate in my strengths at home too, because if I'm not, then I'm not bringing my best self home when I'm at home. So we all know that in just tradition of a husband and wife relationship, primarily sometimes the wife cooked. Back in the day, the wife was the one that was responsible for cooking, but we had to change the dynamic a little bit, because if I'm the one going to work every day and I'm coming home and I'm cooking too, then you're going to have a very tired wife. So what we did is we alternated. He allowed me to use some days where I may buy out, which we have cut way back on because that was starting to get very expensive for 4 people. But we would buy out or find another method of eating that wasn't related to me cooking. And then I would make certain that I would cook on these particular days. And that way I brought my strengths to home, as well as making sure that my strengths in the workplace was not overpowering what I was doing at home.
For me, one of the biggest challenges is when we have a disagreement and then we have to still work together. Sometimes...
Ooh.
I didn't finish it.
Go ahead.
So sometimes that can actually affect how we interact with each other in the workplace. And so we have to make sure that whatever we're dealing with at home is resolved in the home, and whatever we're dealing with in the workplace is resolved in the workplace. Right. And let me tell you, that's not an easy task. No. It's a learned process, and we have to literally set those guidelines and set those parameters.
Right. If we don't, then you're going to find yourself having marital arguments about something that happened at work.
Right, that has nothing to do with your actual marriage. And you always do that. And you
always do that, because when we was at work, you said the same thing about the employees, and then you overstepped your boundaries then too. And you're like, wait. What would you do if I wasn't working with you? Like, what situation would you have brought up then if I wasn't working with you? What example would you have used then? Yeah. Most partners don't work in the same workplace. Yeah. So if you do work together, then you find yourself in a spat, try not to use what happened at work against them, because most partners don't work together. Right. So you wouldn't have that reference to begin with if it was a traditional working relationship. So that's how I make myself, I really got to say, humble myself. That's how I humble myself and make sure that I submit to the role that I agreed to. Yeah. That I agreed to do. Now, he didn't say, woman, you need to come cook for me. He didn't say all that. I know that I'm strong in that. I know I'm strong with helping the kids with their homework. So I'm not going to expect for him to sit at the table for 2 hours tutoring Algebra 2. That's not his strength. So I'm not going to put that on him, and knowing that I'm the one that's stronger with tutoring. Just like at work, I'm not going to put a spreadsheet in front of him and say, I need you to balance this budget by tomorrow. He gonna be looking at this spreadsheet like,
no, I could do it. It just won't be by tomorrow.
It's going to take him 2 years.
2 years.
You better think about that album. It took you 5 years to release.
Perfection takes time.
Exactly. That's exactly what he would say too. That's exactly what he would say. Perfection takes time. I would say, give me that spreadsheet. I could have did it in 15 minutes. But that's just our strength.
Right. And so knowing our personality, knowing your spouse's personality is that added benefit. And that takes too being honest with yourself and knowing, hey, I'm just not capable of that. Not that you can't do it. It's just that that's not your strength. And
right.
Because it's not your strength, that's why God put y'all together to balance each other out.
Right.
The challenge becomes is when we look at our spouse and we may be jealous of maybe that person's strengths, and then we make it a competition.
Yeah.
Not remembering that we are on the same team. We're headed to the same goal. And if God gave us the vision, if God put it on the inside of us, then that's what we hold firm to, and we work towards that by creating a plan and putting that plan into action.
Ooh, that was good. I
do that sometimes.
Well, this is actually our regular dynamic. We get along very well. He is my absolute best friend. But at times, you do get on my nerves.
That's all right. You get on my nerves too.
And there are times when, especially when it comes to our business, where I will get frustrated, especially if I gave him a task and he's taking 20,000 years to finish it, because he's such a perfectionist that sometimes it slows down production.
Right.
So,
because my thought process is I'd rather do it right than have to fix it, and so
right.
that's something that I always work on because I know I'm a perfectionist. It's a blessing and a curse.
Right. So how do we manage each other's weaknesses? I think that will be the last question that we have for the episode today, and I think that will be a beneficial question for our viewers. How do we manage each other's weaknesses? Because we both know that it's real easy. And we all know it's real easy to point out your partner's flaws.
One, get offended with your spouse.
You get offended.
Normal relationship.
Right. You get offended, and then you start pointing out every single thing they did wrong, as if you have never sinned. Like he who has the first, cast the first stone. Mm-hmm. He who have never sinned. Yeah. But we just be casting stones.
And then we focus on absolutes and say, you always.
Right.
You know,
well, you always say that. You always do that. You always.
Right.
Do they really always?
Right. That's not the truth.
No, they don't always. Mm-hmm. On occasions, when this situation happened, or you can even just pull out the situation. When that situation happened, this is what you did. So we manage each other's weaknesses by talking it out in a non-combative communication style.
Right. So that means that you have to step away for a time period and come back later and talk about that actual situation. Or that may mean you need somebody else to step in as a mediator in order to get through that problem or that situation. Right. I think the way that we kind of overcome that is that when we do have a disagreement, is that we do take time out, and because we are best friends, we go out on a date. Or we just, I may be mad at my wife, but then I want to call my best friend to go to the movies. But that's the same person. And so I recognize that I love just being with her. And because of that, then I can actually...
Aww. Okay.
Because I love being with her, I can then take my feelings out the way, because that's really what it boils down to, the way I feel about that situation, which might not necessarily be the truth of the fact.
But even if it is the truth, there are times when it is the truth. Can I just reveal one thing that really a weakness that just irks me.
It's me or you talking about your weakness?
About you.
I'm going to tell you your weakness.
No, I was going to tell you a weakness.
No, it's
I was going to tell
that
you.
just go back to your point.
Because it's easy to point out your spouse's weaknesses. Nobody want to point out their own weaknesses. But I was just going to point out one situation that because so they can know that I'm still working through this thing right now as we speak.
Right, so it's a perfect example. So you can see my weaknesses, right?
Well, some people will call it a strength, but I call it a weakness because of the pace that I move. But for me, he moves entirely too slow. And for some things, I need him to like pick up the pace. And for some things, I guess moving slow is required. It is. There are some times when moving slow is required.
Right.
You know, when a big purchase, you want to move slow. You don't want to just buy the first house you see and buy the first car you see.
Take the first business
contract. The
first deal that comes along just because it might be the right amount of money. But there's other things that are involved that we tend to overlook. And so, you know, it's sometimes me moving slow because I'm trying to look at all the angles. And you know, I do take account that I'm supposed to protect my wife in all aspects. And so whatever that may look like, then I will rather be slow to move forward than to rush out and do things. And then there are times where I do need to be pushed and she needs to be pulled. And that's how we balance each other.
Right. And so on the days that he needs that gentle push, I would just say something like, hey, this is a task that I gave you. Can you get it to me by this day and this time? Because this is why I need it by this day and this time. Instead of saying, you need to hurry up. Why you taking so long? Why you taking so long?
Well, I didn't know how important it was to you.
I don't understand you. I don't understand why you be procrastinating. Elmer Fudd, procrastinating.
You crack yourself up.
I crack myself up sometimes. I don't understand why he procrastinates. But at the end of the day, I had to manage that weakness of his by learning how to adjust my leadership style so that I can get the things that I need from him in the time that I need it. So sometimes I may give it to him way in advance because I know he's going to take a long time to do it. And then by the time I need it, boom, it's done.
What's your weakness?
I don't have no weaknesses.
What? She is perfect, though. So, at the end of the day, learning your spouse is the key. And understanding that you do have a role. You have an assignment that you have to fulfill. And your spouse or your partner, so even if it's not a marriage relationship.
Right, even if it's a business partner.
You got to realize that you guys came together because you saw strengths in each other. And I always tell people, maximize your strengths and develop your weaknesses.
Yep.
So maximize your strengths and develop your weaknesses.
Right, and then in your partner, you can manage their weaknesses. You can manage it. You really can. There isn't really nothing that you can't handle. So you can learn how to manage those perceived weaknesses because, of course, like I said, what's a weakness to me is actually a strength to him in certain areas.
Right.
So it could just be considered a weakness to you, but then learn how you can navigate around that and still get what you need done through that weakness. Okay? Well, that's it for us. That's our time.
Oh, also, please keep tuning in. I'm actually going to be releasing a link to a free book, a book for you to download. It's called, what is it called?
The Compact Guide.
To what?
Multiple streams of income.
Yeah. So it's the Compact Guide to Multiple Streams of Income. It's a short read. I'm telling you.
It's like 10 pages.
You're going to be able to go through it, but it's practical information in order for you to immediately.
Stack those. You guys are going to be stacking.
Immediately, you can begin to produce added streams of income.
Yes. We are here to make your lives easier.
Anybody
All right.
want the next stream of income?
Anybody want another stream of income?
I do.
Well, I could use a couple extra streams. I mean, we got about 3, 4, but I could use about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Boom.
Yeah.
We're gonna help y'all do it. Okay? So anyway, that's our time. We will continuously greet you guys every Sunday at 8:15. We hope that you tune in.
Mm-hmm.
We hope that you tune in because
Like,
every
share,
week,
tag your friends.
yes, and especially if you know of people who are working with a partner in some form or fashion, whether it's entrepreneurship or even if they just work together at Walmart, trust me, you're going to have the same problems or strengths.
Tune in if you're an entrepreneur.
But if you're an entrepreneur, you should be listening to this
Mm-hmm.
every week. We're going to pack it up with stuff that you could use, and we're going to be giving away a lot of things. Cash soon. We're going to be giving away mentorship, coaching, free coaching sessions, and even connect some blessed entrepreneur with investment for their business. Isn't that going to be so cool? What? Who can't use $10,000?
$10,000.
Yeah, $10,000.
$10. I can't. You invest in my business?
I invest in your business.
You got $10,000?
You got $10,000?
$10,000.
Well, guess what? We are out of here. Until next time, I'm Ty.
I'm Chris.
And this is Love and Entrepreneurship.
Tune in next week, 8:15, same Love and Entrepreneurship channel and time. Love y'all.
Peace.